All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have definitely been on a little of a Beretta kick lately, and that is certainly not going to stop with this video. I'm sure you can tell by the title. So, um, really wanted to make this one and talk about this thing because this has definitely been on my mind for a little while, at least since my deployment. So I got my tax return money in, and as of course my patriotic duty, of course, is to spend said tax return on yet more firearms and ammunition and other things like that. Of course, because that's what everyone does with their tax return, right? I'm not the only one, I'm sure. So the thing I wanted to get was I wanted to get a honest to God M9 Beretta M9 pistol, right? And I know the military is phasing out the current M9s now for the M18s and the M17s, right? But I don't feel like waiting around until the government is going to go and surplus those M9s if they ever do, right? So, I mean, just look at the mess that CMP had with the 1911 service pistols. Holy crap! Like that's, I don't want to wait for that, and I don't even think that's going to happen anyways. So, um, yeah, so I wanted to get an honest to God M9 pistol, not a 92 FS, because that is a technically different pistol for a few reasons I will go through in this video. I wanted an M9. So the only way to do that right now is Beretta offers what they call the M9 commercial model. And there is some significant differences with this over the service issue M9 in ways that even I can identify looking at the issue M9s that I've worked with, trained with, carried, etc. Okay, most of these are going to be cosmetic. Functionality wise, I'm pretty sure you could take all the same parts out of this commercial M9 and put them in a military issue M9 and have it work 100%. I'm pretty sure you can do that with all the parts in these because there's honestly not a whole lot different functionally, mechanically speaking, about a commercial M9 versus a military one. But there are a few differences, of course, that they had to do for sake of, I'm sure, legality and other things and agreements they've had with the U.S. government and the military, saying, "Hey, you can only mark things in certain ways like this. Commercial guns can only be marked in certain ways like this, so they do not compete with each other." And also for obviously for legal reasons, right? You don't want to have a company making a lot of the same gun with all the same markings as a military gun, have that person go commit a crime in, I don't know, another country, okay? And then when they catch the guy, like, hey, wait a minute, you've got a government issue weapon. Well, why did that happen, right? A lot of issues can arise from that, and that's the main reason why. Also, too, when you see a lot of weapons that are surplus out of government service, they quite often have the crests like completely ground off, or they have the servicing or working kind of county or administration or unit or whatever crossed out or in some way destroyed to indicate that this gun is no longer in official capacity service with that organization, right? So the whole reason for that. That's the main reason why the markings on this commercial M9 are going to vary versus a actual issue M9, which is unfortunate because me being a collector and everything, I want things to be 100% as close as possible, but that's just not going to happen, I don't think. At least certainly not in a time frame that I'm willing to wait for. So, even if the surplus M9s are obviously going to be ratty and beat the hell and falling apart, that's fine. I like the authenticity. But anyway, the point is, I went out and got this Beretta M9 commercial model, and I'm pretty sure you can already tell some significant differences with this one over an issued gun. And the first thing that sticks out to me is the frame color. You can tell in some of this lighting, especially right there. Look at the slide and how black it is versus the frame and how like kind of purplish gray, kind of lighter shade that it is. Our issue M9s are definitely not like that. Um, but the issue M9s are also like got decades of use on them. So those frames are all kinds of weird, crazy colors. Okay. I have seen some issue M9s at the gate guards on the base. This entire front strap here is completely bare aluminum. Like it's just, there's no black left. It's just white and silver. I've seen that on the trigger guard, the dust cover, the front of the gun here when they're getting in and out of the holsters. I've seen these things worn down to absolute bare metal, and it's terrible. But yeah, so the finish on this, it's just a little bit different. And also another thing is, it says right there on the slide, this one was in fact made in the USA. Let me see if it'll focus. This was not made in Italy. So to me, it's not. I would prefer one made in Italy myself, but it's not a huge functional deal. Okay, as I've mentioned in the other videos, I believe personally that the Italian-made pistols have a different finish on the slide as compared to the American-made ones. I just prefer the Italian ones myself. Do I think this is going to hold up just fine? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I just think the Italian ones look nicer. So some of the markings and things that vary. Okay, there's a lot more detailed articles and things that can inform you about the specific differences. But some of the ones that stand out to me are, of course, the markings here on the slide. This is absolutely not what an issue M9 looks like. This number is not there. The markings as well on the dust cover here, that's not present on the issue M9s. This is different. There's markings on the hammer, on the barrel, and everything that are all way different. Heck, the freaking PB right here, right there, that one is an American one. It is not an Italian one. Those are also different on the, regardless of where it's made, on the issue M9s, that PB is also different. So, you know, all the markings are just going to be different. And that's not necessarily a huge problem for me. I would prefer it if they were original, but like I said, according to legal reasons and blah, all that stuff, they can't do it. So, okay, I'll take what I can get, right? Another thing I've noticed, the 2 magazines that it comes with, these are pretty standard fare. These magazines actually are made in Italy. It says right there on the markings. Yeah, I really wish that would focus better. Anyway, I assure you, it says right there, made in Italy. These look very much similar to our issued magazines, but if you do the research, there are about 3 different types of issued M9 magazines. You got these ones, you got the Checkmate ones, and I think Metgar is the other one. All varying qualities. Some work better than others in my experience. Some of the magazines that I've used that have been issued are absolute trash, and frankly, I think they were trash from the beginning, not because they've been through decades and decades of use. I think they're just bad from the start. I hear the very early Checkmates were notorious for that. I don't know. I don't really know if I was issued Checkmate ones, but I think some of them I were issued probably were because they were crap. But these ones have worked 100% for me just fine. I prefer the Metgar ones myself because I think they're nicer and they can hold more rounds, but these are more correct for an M9 because it's got the holes right there, 15 round capacity. It's got the little cutout here on the bottom. It's got the dimple. These are very correct for an issue magazine. The only difference I think I could remember, for some of the issue magazines, they do not have a plastic base plate. They instead have a simple metal base plate, but I've not been able to find those commercially. So that must be a different production run, different manufacturer that maybe doesn't make it for the commercial market. I don't know. Maybe they're just not making them anymore. I don't know. That's the only other way it could be more accurate, is to have magazines with a metal base plate. One thing I really did not like about one of the differences they made for these commercial M9s, and I thought Beretta was very, very naughty when they did this, okay, is the rear sight. So the rear sight's particularly important because the original M9s had a sighting system that was very similar to this one, in the sense that it had a rear notch with the singular white dot, as you can see there, and the white dot up in the front. That is correct for the older M9s, kind of like the first gen, right? Now, what Beretta did for these commercial models, okay, is they used the same exact rear sight, the 3-dot sight that they use for their other pistols, but they were very naughty because they still have the cutouts for the 2 dots sitting in these posts. They just didn't fill them in with paint, and they very hastily took a white splotch dot and just put that in the notch and called it a day. That is very naughty to me because the original notch 1-dot sights like that did not have the little dimpled cutouts for the 3 dots. It was a solid piece of metal with a nicely painted dot right there. So Beretta took the cheap way out and decided to just reuse the sights they were using for everything else and just not fill in the paint in them. So that's very naughty. That's very cheap. That's very cutting corners, okay? Not very authentic, if you ask me. Now, there are later models of M9s that I have seen have been issued that do in fact have a 3 white dot sighting system. That is absolutely 100% authentic. I've seen it. But the original first generation early versions of the M9s were in fact the the one circle dot and dot up in front. That was the original sighting system. So still kind of, I'm very, I wag my finger at Beretta USA for doing that. Naughty. Not like it matters too much, because functionally when I'm looking down the sights, it all looks the same to me. So good on them for at least having the one white dot with dotting the dot. So other than that, everything else on this feels very much like almost identical to an issue M9. I'm weirded out because when I pick this up and I'm working the action and everything and pulling the trigger and feeling the safety and just working it's so new, it's so crispy, it's so fresh, right? And it just feels so weird to me because I'm used to M9s that you can shake like this and it just goes like you can hear it rattle. You can, if you go hard enough like this and you charge it like that, you can actually charge the pistol like that. I've seen people do it. Not that I recommend you do that, but I've seen people do it. I have seen instances as well of, I'm taking this apart here in the recoil spring, this thing actually went like flying out. I was like, wow, that's a crispy, fresh spring. The reason why I say that is because I have seen issue M9s. Okay, here's your recoil spring and guide rod, and this is actually 100% correct. It is a non-captive polymer guide rod with a spring. This is actually correct to how it's issued. So I explained this to a buddy of mine. I have seen some issue M9s when we're taking them apart, right, and checking them out, cleaning them, whatever. I have seen springs as small as being about here in terms of total spring length. They go from here down. I've seen it go to about there. That's how worn some of these springs are, and it drives me nuts when I see these things, because it's like, dude, that spring is way beyond its service life. It needs to be replaced, but of course they never do. So that's why I was so surprised when I was taking it out of the slide there and just went like flying across the room. I was like, wow. And then trying to put it back in, I was like, wow, this thing's actually fighting me. This is what a brand new fresh M9 is supposed to feel like, not not the decades old one that probably hasn't been serviced in God knows how long. So it's very cool to be able to experience what a new M9 is supposed to feel like. Okay. And it does make a bit of a difference, because the 96A1 and the 92X Compact that I have are not exactly 100% analogies of the issue M9. And like I said, there's a few articles and things you can find out there that detail the differences between an M9 and a 92FS, 96FS, the X series. Okay, they're all very different in their own little small ways. I believe Chris Bartacci at Small Arm Solutions has his own article as well, written on some of the more minute differences between the M9 and the M9 commercial models, and also there have been generational changes of the commercial models that Beretta has done. I don't even know where to find documentation on all the different generational changes that they have done to the commercial models, but there definitely has been generational changes. The reason why I know this is because some of the commercial models that were being talked about in Chris Bartacci's article there, they detailed the boxes, in fact, the boxes that these things came in, and how certain parts were marked in certain different ways. Well, this is the current box that they're coming in right now. I just bought this pistol very, very recently, and so this is how they're coming now. Earlier examples of commercial M9s also look a little bit different and come in different boxes, have different things that come with them. I've seen some commercial M9 models that have a barrel marking on the top of the barrel. Mine doesn't have one. So for whatever reason, Beretta has made generational changes to the commercial model. So whatever commercial model you get, it's probably going to be different from mine, depending on when you buy it, when it was made, so on and so forth. So just a note for some collectors out there who maybe want a specific time frame for when these things were made. I don't know if there's any documentation out there to say from, I don't know, 1992 to 96, this particular commercial M9 model was made, and then they stopped making this at this date, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know where any of that is, if it even exists at all. I imagine you could probably ask Beretta directly and just say, hey, do you guys have information on this? But I don't know. I really don't. So in terms of shooting and everything else, so we went over looks. Like I said, some things vary a little bit from the issue M9s, but functionally this thing is 100% identical to what I'm used to shooting, carrying, everything else. This feels exactly like my service sidearm, which is awesome. I love it. That's why I got it, right? It's supposed to mimic that. So I took this out to the range and I put about 150 rounds through it, which is not a whole lot, obviously, but I mean, the M9's reputation precedes it. Okay, there is no amount of testing that I could do to this gun that hasn't been done in excess or already by somebody else. So there's not a whole lot of testing that I really need to do with this to prove to me that this individual M9 is good to go. So I did the very base minimum testing of steel cased ammo, how it feels and shoots with that. Worked 100% just fine. How does it work with hot defensive loads? So that's what she said. You know, how does it feed with certain kinds of hollow points, right? Worked 100%. Didn't matter what I use. Plus P, normal stuff, worked 100% just fine. And quite accurate too. So, and then of course running your usual like ball ammo, 115, 124 grain, etc. All of it worked 100%, just like I expected it to. Even using the magazines that it came with, not the nice Met guards that I have. So everything worked just great, pretty much like I expected it to. So in terms of accuracy, this thing is absolutely spot on. We're talking like point of aim, point of impact, and obviously because I have a lot of experience with this pistol, it was not very hard for me to get good accuracy with it. So we're talking 10, 15 yards. I'm tearing out the same 2-inch circle on the paper through the whole magazine, a whole 15-round magazine. It's like I'm shooting through the same hole. It's not hard to do. And that includes a lot of double action practice. So there were times where instead of just taking one shot in double action, and then now it's on single action, right? And you take up the rest of your magazine doing single action shots. I've actually taken times where I'll take a whole 15-round magazine, load it up, and I'll decock it, and I will go double action, decock it, go back, double action, decock, go back, and do that through the entire magazine to get that double action practice that you absolutely positively should do with any kind of DASA pistol. Okay, that's just my personal opinion. That's something a lot of people don't do because if you think about it, your training ratio with a full magazine is going to be 1 shot double action and 14 a single action. Okay, so that's a big imbalance when it comes to you practicing what I think is probably the most important trigger pull of your life if you have to use this thing is, in fact, the double action. Okay, so take some time out to actually practice the double action pull. And even in the Air Force pistol qualifications with these, they do actually have you practice the double action pull quite a few times. So it is important. So yeah, accuracy wise, 10 to 15 yards, no challenge at all. Super easy. Very accurate pistol. Point of aim, point of impact, it was working fantastic. I moved it out to 25 yards, and the best group I got for the day was 2.5 inches at 25 yards, 5-shot group. So that is definitely on par with pretty much every other good service pistol that I have in my inventory. So this thing is performing exactly how I thought it would and how I need it to. So just like you would have confidence with your own service sidearm and my own service sidearm, this thing is, as far as I'm concerned, functionally 100% exactly what I wanted it to be. And lives up to its service pistol reputation, even if it is a commercial model and not a genuine M9. This thing's probably working better than the issue guns anyways, because it's all nice and shiny and new, and it's got all fresh parts, and it's been taken care of, at least by me so far. So I intend to continue to take care of this pistol. Did I need this gun? No, not really, but I wanted it to be as close to my service pistol as it possibly could be, and this is the best example that you can get at the moment. So also in case if I want to train the other guys in my unit saying, hey, the training you get in your CADM class is woefully insufficient, in my opinion. So why don't we take a weekend out and I'll give you some real training about how to shoot this pistol correctly, or should I say more proficiently, okay, in case you actually had to use it. So some people have taken me up on that, and I've been able to train them and teach them a few things that the CADM guys may not be teaching them or don't necessarily have the time or skill to do so. So anyway, I'm very happy with this purchase. If you're really sitting on the fence about any of the Beretta 92 pistols or an M9 commercial model, man, don't even think twice about it. These things are awesome. They work great. The fact that I have like 5 or 6 Beretta pistols now should tell you what I think about them. I think when I tallied up my inventory, the only brand that I actually have more of is Walther. So Berettas are at the very, very top of the number of things that I have when it comes into, I guess, number of brand guns that I own. So Berettas are very much up there, and there's a reason for that. It's because they're good guns. Okay, yeah. So I'm happy with this. I think totally a worthwhile addition to my arsenal, and a very, very good use of my tax return money. Doing my patriotic duty, of course, because I am a good law-abiding citizen. So, yeah, I really did want to pick this up, of course, like I said, as a service sidearm analogy as close as I can get. Also for kind of like a deployment memento, I'm going to have the inside of the grips here. I'm going to take these off and have the inside panel of them, both of them engraved with the tail numbers of the planes that I flew on downrange. Okay, it just is kind of a more of a personal touch without really Gucci-fying this pistol too much, because I want it to be in original state. I'm going to have the grips laser engraved with those tail numbers, and I'm going to have little mementos and little things here and there that I'm going to make a special case for this pistol to kind of commemorate my deployment, kind of remind me of things, and say, hey, this is also something I want to make for my future kids when they're looking at dad's stuff or granddad's old stuff, okay, and they say, hey, this is kind of like the pistol granddad used way back when, back when we were in that magical country called Afghanistan. Wow, or that awful place called the Middle East. Wow, can you believe people went there back then? Yeah. So I want to make some kind of like a little snapshot of history, just have another piece of something memorable to put like in the family, and kind of go that way in that direction with this pistol. So that's really what this thing is for. I'm still going to take it out and shoot it, of course, because I just love shooting these things. They're just great pistols, and of course, it's got a special place in my heart because it is my service sidearm. So, yeah, may not be a genuine service one, but hey, I'll take what I can get. It's close enough. It's close enough. So, yeah, that's how I feel about this thing. Like I said, I didn't really need it, but hey, what else are you going to spend your tax return money on, right? More ammo. Training, that kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, super, super happy with how this turned out. This pistol's great. It's awesome. I love what they did with it, minus a few things here and there. Okay. Like I said, with the rear sight, very naughty, very, very naughty. But overall, it's great. It makes me happy. And ultimately that's what matters. So anyway, that's all I got to say about this one. So like I said, if you want to look up the very specific minute differences, I'm going to link, Chris Bertacci's article to the M9 differences and 92 differences in the description, so you can take a look at that so you can get more educated on what the differences actually are, because it's not just the sights, I can tell you that. So anyway, all I gotta say about that, and I know we've been doing a lot of Beretta stuff lately, but man, I just like their stuff. So anyway, all I gotta say about that, and we'll see you next time.